Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, just so you're aware, Keith, we are on YouTube and it's recording, so that way I can write down the time we start whenever we start.
I'll start at 5:50 or at 6 o'clock.
Nope.
You know if we have a quorum? I can't.
I haven't heard anything different. The only person that's not going to be coming is Nate. And I'll talk to you about that.
Okay. So we have Ashley, myself,
You have Ashley,
we
you,
have Alicia,
Alicia, Andy just hopped on. 2, 3, you have 4.
is that a quorum?
Technically, yes.
Okay, we'll wait 2 minutes and we'll jump right into it. How's that?
Sounds fabulous. That only happened once.
I discovered having 3 screens just makes life a little bit more complicated.
Really? I can't live without at least my 2, and they have to be good size.
Well, it seems like on Zoom, the multi-screens make it weird.
So I have 2 42-inch screens on my laptop, but every time I click on one thing, it goes to another screen and then I get lost. So, that's all right. All's good.
Hello all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to check and see. Jill, how are you?
Jed, how are you?
Very good.
Good.
We're excited. Thanks for having us.
I think I'm excited too. I don't think, I know I am.
Very excited just to get rid of my harassment, though, if that could be the possibility. Like, I'd like to get that girl off my back.
I like to get things moving and, just, get them off my desk, but get them moving. I don't want things to be stagnant if we can help it.
Well, let's cross our fingers.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everybody to the January 14th Planning Commission meeting. I'd like to welcome those who are participating on YouTube. And we'd like to start with an opening prayer or a reading or expression of thought. If I could have a commissioner, please volunteer for that.
I'll be happy to do that, Keith. This is Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we're thankful to thee this day for the opportunity we have to gather here as our Planning Commission for the Pleasant View City. We're thankful for this beautiful community and country that we live in. We ask thee to guide us this evening, that we may be led to do the biddings of our community, that we may help the community, that we may enrich their lives. We ask thee to bless our military, our firemen, and our police, that they may be protected and watched over. We ask thee to lead this country and lead the people that help us in our daily lives. We ask thee for this blessing and this night. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. We'll forego the Pledge of Allegiance because of the complication with Zooming. I have a thing that I'm required to read, if you'll bear with me. In accordance with Utah State Code, Section 52-4-207, Paragraph 4, Section A, I, Keith Priest, Pleasant View City Planning Commission Chair, hereby make the following declaration: that the state and national emergency has been declared in response to COVID-19 pandemic, and that Governor Herbert has extended the emergency declaration for Weber County, issued on July 24th and extending to January 14, 2021. That state code has been amended to allow for the conduct of electronic meetings in an emergency without an anchor location, and that the Planning Commission Chair shall read or cause to be read at each electronic meeting the reason and facts behind the declaration, and therefore Pleasant View City Planning Commission shall hold electronic meetings as provided for in state code, signed by myself. Thank you very much. Before we get into let's go ahead and approve the agenda and the minutes from December 3rd. If I could have a motion to approve in a second, please.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Commissioner Lund has made the motion and Commissioner Stokes has seconded. All in favor, sorry, any opposed, say aye. Thank you. Before getting on the agenda, we have a new city administrator, and Amy, if you could maybe spend a few minutes and introduce yourself. We'll be working closely with you. For those of you zooming in, bear with us, please.
I'll just take just a moment, but my name's Amy Maybe, and I'm really excited to be here. This is my first week and got to have council meeting on Tuesday, and now have the privilege of meeting with you all this evening. So really looking forward to working with you all, and for the opportunity. It's going to be really great.
We're excited.
We really are excited as well. So we look forward to a close association. We wish that the pandemic was over so we could have personal face-to-face interaction, but it is what it is, as the saying goes. So thank you for, yeah, we'll get there for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the first item is a discussion. This will be a public hearing. It will be a discussion recommend to the city council to rezone request from A2 to RE20 located at 1573 West Pleasant View Drive, parcel 19-014-0005. Jill?
Okay, so here we go. Oh, come on, where's my mouse? I always lose it every time. There it goes. Okay, so Budge Farm, or not, sorry, too many Budge things in my brain. We have the Budge property. So this is Diane Budge and her son-in-law, Sean, applied for a rezone. It is currently zoned A2, which is agriculture, and they're hoping to get it rezoned to RE20, which are half-acre lots. There's our application. So here's our zoning. Our current zoning, again, A2, our future land use map is zoned for low density, which is 2 to 3 units per acre. Here's a sketch drawing. It's not final. This is what we require as part of the application, that they kind of give us an idea of what they're thinking about. So having a road down the middle and 4 lots. Talking with them, they're hoping to get the 4 lots that way for family, but this is just the rezone. So really what we need to look at is this a good fit for this location for the rezone? If you guys are fine with that, we would recommend approval to city council. As staff, we see no issue. It meets the future land use and the general plan. So we've actually recommended approval, but that is your guys' call.
Okay, I have a question for you before we get started, and I just pushed the wrong button again, so that's what I was telling you earlier. Hold on one sec. So I'll ask the question while I'm trying to find what I lost. All the other parcels to the west, they've recently been zoned to RE15.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason why this request isn't an RE15 and we're staying with RE20? I mean, no objection. I'm just curious.
They wanted, I know one of the biggest concerns was to be able to have certain animals. And so in order for them to be able to have the certain animals, they have to have at least the RE20 because RE15 only allows for house pets.
Okay, thank you. That's a good answer. And then the next question I have is in regards to, we had quite a discussion last month on Budge Lane.
Mm-hmm.
How does this proposal merge and match with that?
technically Budge Lane is not their property, so they can't do anything right now with it. I know they've actually called and talked to me today. They are looking at maybe purchasing part of it, not the whole thing. But if that does happen, and we would look at that, especially with the preliminary aspect, depending on what happens, well, this might be coming back to you guys, not as particularly a rezone for Diane Budge, but it probably a subdivision, because if the Dickmores decide to sell Budge Lane, because that's who does own that, they would have to subdivide it first.
Okay, so.
Keith, may I piggyback onto your comment, since
Please.
you're on that road? I know that this this is only a subdivision request at this time, but I made a comment to Jill that I would like to make it known on the record for this, that going forward, that I would like to make it known that they would look with staff. The Transportation Committee previously on the general plan had that Budge's Lane, even though it was a private lane, would match up with, I believe it's Price's Lane straight forward and going up. So this is something the Transportation Committee a long time on our general plan had, that road would go down, connecting into those roads down below, into those homes down below, and then eventually straight up, because you've got a lot of open houses up above, and that would be our only connection to those open fields up above. And so that would be a straight shot across Pleasant View Drive. Otherwise, if it's the way that's proposed here on this, and I like the the A2 to A20, or the larger lots, but the proposed it is now, you're going to have offsetting roads going across Pleasant View Drive. So I would suggest that this preliminary, I like the rezoning and it fits our plan, but I don't like the way the roads align. And I know that's not the proposal for tonight, but that is considered for when they bring that back to us, that it is realigned or looked at that in the plan. Thank you.
Jill,
Thank you.
could you go back to the map that shows the plan?
Yes, let me share my screen again.
So at the bottom there
Mm-hmm.
is a cul-de-sac being planned. I realize that this isn't part of, I'm just wondering, it's showing on the drawing, basically a cul-de-sac there.
At the very bottom off.
Yes.
That's a temporary turnaround.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay.
It'll be a permanent turnaround, right?
No.
If this-
No,
So
Oh,
that,
I see your thing. That would be a public road. Got it. I understand.
okay, so it is a potential cul-de-sac. It's just a temporary turnaround. What is it?
That's
So
not part of this project.
this is just a rezone, and this is just a sketch drawing.
Okay,
So when they go through preliminary, things may change. We look more in depth of standards, making sure everything fits, and all those types of little key points.
mhm.
But with the rezone, we just make sure what their sketch is, and if it would fit with what the general plan, the future land use, and if you guys feel it would be
Yeah.
a good time to rezone it or not.
Okay, I was just curious. I had seen that earlier and wasn't sure really what it was.
Okay, and before we go into a public hearing, I have a question that piggybacks on Andy's. With that public road,
Mhm.
looks like that will provide access to the subdivision, correct? What will that do to Budge Lane? I know it's not part of this project, but I know that we're in discussions with the other rezones that we had last month. What happens to Budge Lane? And are there talks about, as Andy said, having that as a straight shot through and to Price Lane?
Budge Lane is a private road, and
Right.
because we don't own it, one, we're kind of limited on what we can do because they don't own it. They're in talks that they may be purchasing a portion of it. If that does happen, we will look at that a lot closer. But eventually, depending on whoever ends up owning Budge Lane, and we'll determine what happens with it.
Okay, and I understand it's not up for discussion right now, so
That's a good question.
it is, and we had a long discussion last month in regards to the very same road, so I'm just curious as how that's all going to turn out with UDOT and now this rezone application, so. All right, commissioners, any questions to Jill before we open for a public hearing? None? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion that we open this item on the agenda for a public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we open for a public hearing at this time.
Commissioner Neff, Commissioner Cummings, thank you for a second. Okay, we're now in public hearing. Jill, do you have comments?
Nope, none at this time. Well, Anne made a comment, but not for this project. I'll tell you after.
Okay. Curiosity is a strange thing. Anyways, so does anybody viewing or connected to this meeting have any comments or concerns, questions? Is the applicant available?
Yeah, well, let me double check. We have 12 watching right now.
Yes, Jill, we're on here right now.
Sorry, I have so many on my screen. I'm like going through. The Briarleys are on.
Okay, I have a question for the applicant. Is there any discussion at all? And there again, it's not part of this project, but we had such a discussion last month about Budge Lane and what that looks like and what that means for our city going forward. Have you considered anything for that lane? I know it's not part of your rezone. It's private road. You don't own it, I guess. Have there been any talks or anything about turning that private road into a public road? I guess it's not the right place to ask that, Jill, is it?
It's your meeting, you can ask.
I mean, we are trying to figure out what to do with it. The reason we didn't make it into a wider road there is just the way our lot is set up. We wouldn't be able to get the 4 lots in there that we're looking for. That lot 4 that's kind of down in the corner wouldn't have the frontage that you require for it. So that's kind of why we looked at doing a different road.
Okay, that's a great explanation. And then, Jill, do you know what the width of that road is, Budge Lane? Currently?
Budge Lane, off the top of my head, no, but I believe.
I think it's only 15 feet wide.
I was gonna say, I think it's half.
Just wide enough for your car.
Just a single lane, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's not up, so I'll stop talking about it. But thank you for the information there. Anybody have any comments? Sarah? You like to comment on these things? Do you have any?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No, I don't at this time. I can see the concerns with Budge Lane coming up, but again, like Jill reiterated, that's a private road. It's really not relevant, I suppose, at this time. It is relevant maybe in the future, but the city will address that. So if it meets the conditions, and so just comments like that, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
There
All
are
right,
no
any other questions?
or YouTube.
What?
There's no comments on YouTube.
No, but that's a cool comment. I agree with Ann. We'll have to address that later. Anyway.
I see the comments, and I guess I'm pretty glad I'm not. I guess I could look at the comments, but anyways,
Motion that we close the public hearing at this time.
thank you. Do we have a second?
Second, I'll second that.
Thank you. Commissioner Neff has made a motion that we close. Commissioner Cummings has made a second. Any opposed, say aye. Okay, public hearing is now closed. Any further discussion, commissioners, or questions to staff?
They haven't even started.
Okay, if not, then I'll entertain a motion that we recommend approval to city council to recommend approval or denial request to rezone to the city council from A2 to RE20 located at 1573 West Pleasant View Drive, parcel 19-014-0005.
Keith, I'll make a motion that we approve as so read with the condition that we make the approval with staff recommendations as noted in the staff report, that those findings are also included, that they are met. And also that we have them also look at the traffic report and the general plan of traffic study. Was the staff has review that also before it comes back to us as a plot plan.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Keith. This is Dean Stokes.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Stokes. We have a motion and a second. The motion is that we recommend city council approval with the conditions and comment that Commissioner Neff has indicated. All or any opposed, say aye. Okay, motion is approved. Thank you very much. Item number 2 is a discussion decision amendment to the current subdivision Deer Crest Phase 4, changing the redistrict lots. Jill?
Okay, so there's my mouse again. I always lose the mouse. I need to start wearing my glasses. Wrong one. Okay, so the applicants are all on, and so this is where Deer Crest is located, just up on the hill. Phase 4 was approved not too long ago. So you can see these lots, they were restricted due to the slopes. The request is to remove that restriction. We do have some conditions which are in your staff report, which they are aware. They're the comments that we've sent them that need to be addressed. It's really the grading plan. I printed them off. So all the red lines, the slope map, grading plan, calculate and show the average slope per lot. So it's definitely doable, and Carson and Brent Hansen, they know their stuff. They can easily get that done. So staff's actually recommending, the reason why we brought it before you guys is this one's really not that hard. So we recommend approval along with the conditions that we've listed.
So in the staff report,
Mm-hmm.
you make a recommendation, or you've commented that we update the slope map to show 0 to 15, 15 to 20, and 20 to 25 and above 25.
Right. Those are the conditions for Carson and Brent in order to be able to have that corrected. Because that's, according to our ordinances, that's what has to be done in order to those restrictions. But
so are we asking to waive those restrictions?
no, we want those. Those are the conditions. With the recommendation is we're recommending approval with those conditions, which are those red lines and those details.
Okay, thank you. The applicant is here, Carson.
Yes.
You had some pictures or drawings you wanted to show?
Well, I did, but I am just not smart enough to put it on this screen. So
Maybe we're okay.
Yeah, this is just, you can see what's happened. Let me give you a brief history of this. When we got Deercrest approved in 2006, we went through the entire 100+ acres and did an average slope map. And we're still dealing with the same land we did in 2006. On these 3 lots here, when we dug our detention basin, we had excess dirt material that we needed to stockpile. So once we were done pushing dirt to the east, we started pushing dirt to the west. So that changed our topography a little bit. And so that where you sloped off, where the dirt piles sloughed off, got steeper than 30%. And our development agreement calls 30% grade, not 25. So that's just, we had steeper than 30% grade where our dirt piles sloughed off the side. We've since removed all those and got it down to just about a foot of fill on the majority of it. So the pictures that I took are the no build area that shows a perfect building pad, and where the city is saying they want the house on lot 73, which is the place where you would not want to put your house. Just, you can see it. So I was hoping to show those. But anyways, our natural terrain, our natural topography hasn't changed from what our development agreement showed.
So Jill, he was talking about lot 30, what?
73.
73. Can you show a picture? Go back to the, or
So with
larger
the request, we would have to re-record it, so it has to have new.
Okay.
Numbers. So if you look over here, it says lot 473.
Okay.
That's that one.
Oh, sorry. I didn't.
It's not moved by the 4 and then 73.
So it's lot 473.
Yeah. And then 70.
Carson, we're speaking specifically on these 3 lots, correct?
Correct. And lot 466 and 467 have a little bit on it too, but it's just, that's the same thing. When we built out for the sidewalk, the dirt that sloughed down was steeper than 30%, but that's all in the 30-foot setback. So it's not even in the building pad.
Mhm.
All right, commissioners, any questions to staff or the applicant?
So if I'm understanding correctly, Carson, what you're saying is you've taken dirt that was excess dirt and you've pushed it over to even out some of those slopes so that the grade would not be as steep as what it was.
So a little bit different than that.
Okay.
We took excess dirt and pushed it over onto these lots 14 years ago that created steeper slopes than our development agreement allowed.
Okay.
And when we did phase 4, then we removed those steeper slopes and they're not steep anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you worried about compaction at all? I know you said you have about a foot of fill on top of natural. You compact that? You worried about movement?
No, we compact that for sure. Yes. We'll compact up in lifts.
Yeah. And the fact is, it all is engineered.
Yes.
So it would need to have those engineering studies done before it's built on, correct?
It just needs a soils guy out there to say, yes, we've tested this and it meets Proctor.
And basically he's checking that compaction. as
Yes.
well. So,
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So these,
Go ahead, Dean.
Carson, these lots will all have the geotechnical reports done on them before the permits are requested, or how will that work?
We already have the geotech on all these lots. So they'll just, the soils report, GSH will come out and do testing on each individual home pad on where the house sits. And
okay, so you have a geotechnical report for the subdivision,
yes.
but then for each house where each house placement's going to be, there'll actually be an updated report on that
Yep.
soil where the house is going to go.
If it's not sitting on native, yes.
Okay. So they'll determine at that time if any helical piers or anything like that are
Yes.
required.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's what I mean, I didn't hate the idea of the R, just to remind everybody that this needs a little more look at it. But when the R means restricted and you take a 1 acre lot and turn it into a little, 2,000 foot building pad that's 40 feet below top back of curb, that's
Yeah.
when the problem arises.
Yeah.
So,
I think I think my only concern is just making sure that mainly the city is protected from any type of liability for
Oh, yeah.
improvements that
I
could have
agree.
issues.
the developer wants that too.
Yeah. Yeah. None of us want to be on the news going, well, Iowa.
Very true.
Like
So,
we've
Very
seen
true.
in other areas, yeah. Okay, any other questions? If not, then I'll entertain a motion that we approve the amendment to the current subdivision of Deer Crest Phase 4, changing the restriction lots as described in the applicant or application. Have a motion?
I'll motion to second that as read, but I would like to add that we clarify that the city's liability, that what we're recommending will protect us.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Stokes. We have a motion, and do we have a second?
This is Jim. I'll go ahead and second that. It sounds like it's pretty well thought out and well organized.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Cummins. All opposed, say aye.
Hey, Keith, real quick,
Yes. Yes.
is that with we want to make sure that we are voting on it to cover the staff conditions as met and written with the staff conditions. Is that correct? Because they're pretty well spelled out pretty clear on that. So we want to make sure that those are covered.
And I think that's just standard with the applicant, right?
Well,
Application.
but they're pretty detailed. So I want to make sure that we verbalize that on these, because with these changes, I want to make sure that we verbalize that in our recommendation for these, because some of these are very specific with the engineering drawings. So in our recommendation, I'd like to say those verbally. So that would be for my vote.
The conditions are: 1, correct all red lines on the plat; 2, update slope map to show 0 to 15% and 15 to 20% slopes to match ordinance; 3, calculate and show average slope per lot; and 4, submit grading plan.
Because I don't understand that, so I'm relying on the engineer to suggest that to us. So I have to refer to them.
When you guys do make motions, if you aren't adding those conditions, you can say the conditions within the staff report or specific conditions like Andy gave with the rezone. If those are not specifically spelled out with your motion, it does not carry over.
So if I understand correctly, Andy is specifically saying that he'll make a second if the conditions in the application are met. Is that correct, Andy?
Well, I think we already had a second, so I'm actually asking for an amendment to make sure that those are met.
And before we vote on it, I'll go back to Commissioner Stokes and make sure he's okay with that as well. So
thank you.
Can I add one thing? Sorry,
Yes.
Is it too late? I
No,
just
go
have a
ahead.
question on where some of the conditions regarding slope are different than our development agreement states.
That we can really dive in and.
Can we fix that? Can we work on that on a staff level?
Yes.
Okay, I'm okay if we can work on this on a staff level without having to come back to council.
Well, the only problem with that, Jill, is we are saying very specifically the 15%, 0 to 20, 20 to 25, and above 25. If we approve of the motion to meet those conditions,
Yes.
then those conditions have to be met.
So what I was going to say is, yes, we can do that on a staff level. The conditions that you guys would have to put is that everything is met by the city engineer and the public works director. That would be,
Keith, may I ask a question?
Please, Sarah.
So if you're making the recommendation based specifically on the staff recommendations, then my understanding, what staff recommends is what the engineer and staff have done their homework to recommend.
Right.
So if the motion includes the staff recommendations within the staff report, then Carson can go back to the staff and then work those out. If there is something, whatever staff then comes to council with the recommendations then. But right now, the recommendation would be to follow what this, if you're going to follow the staff recommendations.
correct, but we spelled those out.
Yes.
So,
So they are spelled out, and it sounds like Carson is saying that he has a developmental agreement that shows up to 30%. We're being very specific at the percentages. And if I'm reading Carson's mind correct, he's concerned about that. Is that correct,
Exactly.
Carson?
That is correct. I would be happy with the change saying 20 to 30%. That's the only change I want. I would want.
Do you have the development agreement, Jill?
right here in this room, no, I don't. It is in the safe or in the vault. I do not have it right here at my desk.
Have you looked at it?
I don't know that I would be comfortable going with that if we don't have that actual development agreement that we're looking at.
So my concern is, and this is a legal thing, if there's a developmental agreement that Deercrest can be developed up to a certain slope, and we're now saying that we're going to put conditions modifying that, can we do that?
So here's a quick little thing. I have to verify with the development agreement. That part, I'm going to be honest, I did not see that part. However, if our ordinance, which that's where the conditions came from, was our ordinance. If our ordinance was done before the development agreement, that's something that we're going to have to work out with a little bit more in detail. Because according to the ombudsman, our development agreements can't break our ordinances. So what we would have to do is we would have to look further into that and see what we can do.
So I guess my question is, why would we enter into a developmental agreement if the agreement conflicts with the ordinance?
I have to look to see when that ordinance.
I understand.
Because the ordinance is right here, because I have my book.
It's always been my understanding that the development agreements entered into to alter the ordinance to an extent. So Deercrest is this very special creature because we have 17,500 foot lots and we have 1 acre lots, and it's all in the same RE20 zone. And we did that through development agreement. So that's where we spelled out all of what the developer was going to do and what the city was going to do. It was based on city ordinances, but all the changes and alterations were made in the actual development agreement.
Carson, you remember the date the development agreement was actually signed?
I think it was December 5th of 2005.
Then that would be different because this zone was actually done in 2000, original was 14.
Isn't the original on the bottom of the document where it says ordinance 2008-5?
Sorry, 2008, that's when it was, 2008. That's when that ordinance was done. So the development agreement does trump that. So thank you, Carson, for that date. I'd have to verify on it when I have access to
I was just trying to find the development agreement, but I got too big of a pile here and it would take me too long. So
the development agreement was signed September 12th of 2006.
Oh, okay.
And
So-
recorded on December 5th of 2006.
Oh, I'm a year off.
Okay, here's our options. If you guys need to, we can table it, or we can have the motion state, we recommend, or we approve with conditions, or we deny, but you can either do conditions that the staff will approve, or you can spell it out, and we're gonna have to work to see what options we have.
Okay.
Is
Let's bring this to real life. Commissioner Stokes, you've made a motion. And there was a second made on your motion, but the second was very specific that we include the conditions that staff recommends. That is in contrary to what Carson, the applicant, is asking. So do you want to withdraw your motion and table it, or do we want to modify your motion as read?
Read which time?
So you made a motion that we approve as the packet states. Andy, on his second, said he's great with that, but he wants to make sure that the conditions that staff has specifically spelled out are met, which is 15 to 20%, 20 to 25%, above 25%. Carson, it sounds like he's saying all these lots might be above 25%. Is that correct,
No,
Carson?
That's incorrect. I just want that 30% threshold to be delineated, not 25 and then 25 up. I want it to be delineated from what our development agreement states, if that makes sense.
So have you read the staff report?
Yes.
Where it's very specific about 15 to 20, 20 to 25. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay if we go up from 20 to 30.
So he wants to eliminate the 15 to 20.
It can go 15 to 20. That's fine. We can go 15 to 20 and then 20 to 30. I just want that 30% that is in our development agreement. I don't want that to just be overlooked and cause us a headache at some point in the future. I don't think it will cause us a headache on these lots right here. But I would like it to be,
Amy, welcome to city administration. This sounds like a legal issue to me. If the applicant is requesting something different than the staff report and the conditions, unless the motion is made that we eliminate the 25 to 30, you just have a 20 to 30. Can we do that, Jill or Amy?
Well, and I guess my thought process is maybe it's broadening that condition a little bit in that the applicant works with the staff on approval, and that'll give us some time to do research and to work with Carson and to be able to kind of look at those timelines, and then obviously we want to be honoring of the development agreement, but then also honoring of our ordinance. So we just need a little bit more time for research, and you have the option to table, but I'd recommend just modifying that condition a little bit in that, the applicant works with the staff on approval and on the slopes. And then from there, we can work with Carson directly and find out those details.
Okay. Dean?
I would agree with that.
Thank you, Carson.
Thank you.
Dean, are you okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay. If it sounds like everything's going to get worked out, and it sounds like the development agreement, like Jill's already said, may trump this ordinance anyway. Is this going to go in front of city council as well, or is this end here?
This is your guys's. City council doesn't do amendments.
Can I ask a question, Keith, just real quick?
Please, sir.
Jill, if you have that development agreement, if I would perhaps they feel more comfortable with actually looking at what it states before you make that recommendation? Just a question.
I mean, we can get that. It's not going to happen tonight. I don't have the key. However,
could you make your motion contingent on what the development agreement says?
Here's the thing though, we can broaden that, and depending on certain things, depends on what we can do. For example, if Carson is, I would think that the development especially with Brent Hansen, he would have been the one to sign it. If he states it was signed in 2006, and then this zone, or this particular ordinance was done 2 years later, that development agreement most likely will have to trump that ordinance because it was done prior to this ordinance.
But we don't know what the ordinance was before that. We would have to go look at what the ordinance was on the books before that too.
So if you actually look at the bottom of the ordinance that I put on there, it states when the ordinance was done. And if there was one prior to this, it would actually state the original date.
So if there was a developmental agreement entered into before the ordinance was proposed and implicated or implemented, then
Okay,
Can't we just make this contingent on us working with the staff? I mean, this whole thing in my mind, I guess I might be oversimplifying this, but if we had an approval based off of staff approval, based off of a complete accepted, full packet, we can work through staff all day long and get this done in a real timely fashion rather than having to come back and put this in front of you again.
If it wasn't the liability issue, the thing sloping off the hillside either.
Jill, wouldn't Dana have known what our ordinances and everything? Isn't she the one that made the recommendations?
Yes.
So she knows what the development agreement says and what our ordinances say, right?
Yes, unless you look at the date.
I'm agreeing with Carson. What
So
would be a reason for her to look into that?
It's not her job to look into the development agreement.
Right.
so Keith, what could we do? Recommend approval along with the conditions of number 1, correct all red lines on plat. 2, calculate and show average slope per lot. 3, submit grading plan. 4, applicant, worded along the line, applicant works with city staff and city engineer on the slope of the ground to coordinate with the development agreement and the ordinances that were in place at the time of the agreement.
And that's the problem. There were no ordinances at the time, it sounds like.
So my opinion, what I would recommend is that if you are wanting to approve with the conditions that the city staff and the city engineer approve before recording the new plat. That way, it gives us time to look through everything. We won't record it unless we make sure it's done right, for one. If you want, we can add what Dean said, check with the city's liability. I think that's a great one. And then it doesn't have to come back to you. They work directly with us. We'll work back and forth, make sure everything's done. Keith, you'll know when it's done because you would have to come in and re-sign it.
Okay, I'm ready to hear a motion.
I motion to approve what Jill said.
Ashley, you can't do that. You have to be very specific with your motion.
And then I'm just going
to. There's been a lot of what Jill has said tonight, so.
I know. I didn't know how to repeat it.
That encompasses a lot.
I didn't know how to repeat it. I'll just second it.
I can't make a motion, Ashley. I am staff, not planning commission. Sorry.
I'll just second it when someone does it the right way.
Okay, let's try and rephrase what Jill said with a little bit of coaching.
No, you can go ahead and make the motion.
Okay.
Go ahead. Julie, make your motion.
Okay, I'll try and remember it here. Okay, so I would recommend approval along with the conditions. Number 1, correct all red lines on plat. 2, calculate and show average slope per lot. 3, submit grading plan. 4, applicant works with the city staff and the engineer to make sure that the slopes are appropriate with what was that plan called, Carson? Development plan. The development
agreement.
plan with that and the city requirements that were in place at that time.
Thank you, Julie. I second that.
Does that work?
Julie, that was amazing.
Julie, that was amazing, except for there were no ordinances when the developmental.
Oh, well, I didn't say ordinances, I said requirements that were in place. There were still requirements back then, weren't there?
I think it was up to 30%, if I'm understanding Carson. I haven't seen the developmental agreement. so I
In
don't know.
which case, the developmental agreement goes along with what was in place, and there's really, it trumps what we've got now.
Carson, do you see any of these 3 lots going above 25% on slope?
Oh, no. Not at all. In fact,
Anywhere
I have
close to 20%?
the plan that we had, let me see. We have right now, because we had the hillside, the slough pile sloughing off, we did have some 30% grade on here, but right now it's completely gone. We don't have any 30%, and by the time a house goes on there, it's even going to be less. So I really don't see anything over 30%. No, well, it's not a big deal. I think that we will have a lot of, this is more for the future that I even brought this up, because in the future we are going to have some slopes that are reaching 30%.
Does your developmental agreement apply to those as well?
Yes.
You had the whole 100 acres, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I think Commissioner Farr's motion was clear. At least in my mind, it was. Anybody have any? Well, the motion's been made. I'll entertain a second.
Ashley seconded it.
Yeah.
I second it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we've had a motion and a second. Any opposed, say aye. Okay, Carson, the motion will go forward. Please work with city staff and Jill. And Amy, please make sure that church liability or city liability is mitigated. I'm sorry, I added one hat onto the other, so.
We'll do that.
Okay,
Jill,
thank you.
Before these come up again, I think it would be helpful if we received a copy of that developmental agreement, or at least know what's entailed that affects what we are trying to make a judgment on.
At least the pertinent pages.
The pertinent pages. We don't want all 200 pages.
Yeah.
We're not 200, but yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, it would be helpful.
You got it.
Okay, we're on to, wow. Item number 3 is discussion recommend to city council. What is that? A8 lot commercial subdivision called Rule and White Business Park located just north of 2700 North on Rule and White, parcel 19-016-0081. Jill?
Okay. So here we go. If you can see, this is where CMS or AKA Brill or the cookie factory that some people call it, that's where this is. Where'd my mouse go? I swear I just saw it. There it is. Right here. And then we have this stub road right here. This is where Rulon White's going to start. It's going to go up and around and then connect back into Parkland right here in this lot. This is the layout. We do have the applicants on here. Tyson Lund and his group is on. And this is going to be a commercial subdivision. There's 8 lots. They are working actually with the city. The city is one, this is one that we are, one of the projects we've been trying to get going. So they're working hand in hand with us closely. So what's happening is Brill sold off the back half. This will remain Brill up here, but these new lots will be formed, and this will be a very heavy duty road. As
Heavily used.
That way the trucks going in and out of Parkland will be able to go to a light, and it'll be a little bit more of a smoother transition for them. So when we were looking at this, Tyson Lund and his group jumped on board and has been working with us. So we're to the point now that we were able to bring it to you guys for the preliminary. And if you were able to read your staff reports, there are a couple of red lines in engineering comments, and they did fix the lot line between 1 and 2. So the condition number 2 has been actually already corrected. So, and we are recommending approval along with those conditions.
Jill, can you go back to the map, please?
Yep. Do you want the aerial shot or there it is?
Just seeing the subdivision.
The road.
Wasn't there something that was supposed to be an issue with that at the curve at the top between 4 and 8? Did we ever work out something for that future road, or was there something on the bend that we had to get worked out? It seemed like when we were doing the subdivision up there that.
Oh, up farther, the Simon Go?
Well, no, just
lot 4.
Between lot 8 and lot 4, there seemed like there was something that we had to do with alignment in order for it to match up with the in between the 2 current lots where your cursor is, where it says future roads.
That's our property. So what's going to happen is the city's going to put that part in, but so that's part of our subdivision. That's going to be our thing. They're going to help put the road in because they want all these lots, and that's why they had to apply for the preliminary, and it's not just a city thing. Does that kind of help?
It just seemed like there was something between 8 and 4 that we had to, in order to make sure that matched up with our city, or I don't know, we had to acquire something. I'm not quite sure.
I remember that, Andy. It was the width. We was concerned about the radius and the width. Has that been addressed? You know?
It's the fact that the 2 curbs butt together between where it shows future road and 2740 north.
Okay, up there.
You got a pinch point there on the 2 roads being too close together. That was the drama.
Okay, that's what it was.
Okay. That will be addressed when we put our portion of the road in.
Okay, so we beat the city up instead. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
So that pinch point isn't being addressed right now.
Yeah, that road part, we have to look at that as the city point. They're not responsible for that specific portion. That's strictly the city's, that's ours. The plan was to loop it in So that's something that we're looking into and we're evaluating in that spot.
Okay, just needed to refresh the project.
Nope, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Neff. I appreciate that as well. Commissioners, any questions to staff? The applicant is here, I see. Any questions to the applicant?
I would like to bow out of this one because now that I see Tyson's face, I know that I'm related. So I think that would be a conflict of interest. So my vote does not count in this matter.
Okay, so Commissioner Lund has recused herself from action item number 3 on the agenda. Okay, any questions?
Are we going to make it
applicant
look,
or staff?
are we going to make it look beautiful like Farmington Station? That's all I've ever wanted is a Farmington Station.
So that would be more of a commercial line. This is more light industrial type.
Thank you very much.
Will we see a
At
landscape?
some point there was some field behind something that we were going to do that on. So this is not it. Okay.
As each one of these lots develop out, though, we'll see a landscape preliminary plan, correct?
Yes, we will look at the landscaping portion of it. Yeah. We've got our requirements in the ordinances, so we'll make sure that they meet those most definitely.
Okay. All right. We'll entertain a motion, please.
I'll do it, Keith.
Thank you, Dean.
So I'll motion to approve the staff recommendations of their report. And I think that's it. I motion to approve the staff recommendations as stated in the document, agenda item 3.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Do we have a second?
I can second it, I guess, since Alicia's not recuse herself on this one, but so I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all opposed or any opposed, say aye. Okay, motion is approved. Thank you very much.
So
All right.
welcome, Tyson.
Thanks. Glad to be here. That went smooth.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Thanks for doing that.
Item number 4 on the agenda is discussion recommended City Council, a 4-lot residential subdivision named Omen Estates, excuse me, located on the corner of Pleasant View Drive, 600 West and Alberta Drive, parcel 17-059-0118. Jill.
Okay, so Derek is on. He's our applicant. Here's a familiar view. We've got the roundabout right here, and it's this lovely triangle piece, and we're right over and off the map, but we're right here, so you guys are aware of where it's at. Derek is proposing a 4-lot subdivision, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. There will be no access off of 600, which he's fully aware of. And they all have the correct frontages. There are some red lines and corrections, and the long-term stormwater that we're working with him on. So he meets all the other conditions. So the staff, we recommend approval along with the conditions that are listed. And just so you guys are aware, lot 1, 2, and 3 will come off of Alberta Drive, and 4 will come off of Pleasant View Drive.
Commissioners, questions? I have a question. Go ahead. Somebody started saying something.
Oh, I had a question mainly because we've been talking about slopes, and I had looked at those properties previously, and it had looked like some of those had quite a slope, but I'm sure they're meeting requirements. What was the slope grade on that lot 1 and 2? I just remember looking that they really have a slope.
Yeah, lot,
Go ahead, Derek.
working with Dana, lot 4 is the only one that there is slope concerns on.
Okay.
And we are currently working, that is one of her red lines, I believe, for final. And working with my engineer, that'll be based upon the house that goes on lot 4 going into a slope. Whether or not they have a walkout on the main floor or how they work the orientation of that home with the slope. So, but that is the only lot that does not meet the ordinance. And we're working with her on a plan for how that'll work with the house.
Because of the slope, is there any problem with water retention, detention, any water issues?
Well, we've done a geotech, and we've worked that into our plan. There is no water on the property. We went down and did the geotech, and it revealed no groundwater. But the detention on the other plan shows that going along the back of all the lots. So about where the dotted line is, that'll be a vegetation strip that will help slow the water. But it's a little bit deceiving. The slope's not as bad as it looks from the road once you get out and survey it.
Yeah, I figured it probably wasn't, but I had noted.
But yeah, you're right though. It is deceiving. It looks pretty steep when you look at it. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Keith, may I ask you a question?
Please, Sarah.
Or unless, how far back is the setback, and how does the walking path in Pleasant View, how does that affect the walking path right there? Just curious.
So we're completely redoing the walking path with as per the recommendation of the city. We'll have a 6-foot concrete walking path, and that'll actually all match the elevation of the road, if I remember right. So that'll all get filled, cut and fill along there. The road will have a parking strip along there, and then a mow strip, and then the sidewalk. So the walking path will change somewhat. So.
Who's going to maintain the mow strip?
Well, the homeowner, I guess. We didn't necessarily want to do anything on that side of the road, but as per the city recommendation, we are redoing the walking path. So if the council would prefer that we take the mow strip out, because it is going to be a concern. Nobody's going to want to go to their backyard and maintain the mow strip. But right now we can hopefully push the homeowners to zero scape it or rock it so that it looks decent.
So there are actual other properties that do have mow strips on both the front and back. And we do require the homeowner to take care of that if it gets out of control. Yes.
Sure. I mean, I'm building on lot 1, and my plan is to zero scape on my side. So hopefully everybody follows suit.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that being developed. We've always wondered what would happen with that triangle. So I'm kind of excited to see it disappear in a way, I guess.
I personally am Keith, I'm surprised that it's going to residential, because on the general plan at one time it was commercial along with a few of the other plots across from the city hall area. So I was surprised when I saw this came up, and because I don't remember that area being changed from the neighborhood commercial area to residential. So I was kind of surprised. And I'm surprised from the busy traffic area that this is actually being filled in. Not that we can't move forward because that is what's on the books, but I'm surprised that this is on the books as a residential.
The current
20, I think.
Sorry, my brain, too many moving parts. Something just popped up on the screen. The current future land use map actually shows it as 2 to 3 units per acre.
That's what I remember, Commissioner Neff, as we talked about this not being a very attractive commercial site because of the 3-point road, 600 Alberta and Pleasant View Drive. It would get kind of convoluted. So I think it fits more residential.
Yeah, the traffic impact will definitely be a lot less than commercial.
Right.
And I had brought several ideas to Bill, and this one we felt like was the best fit. So
on water slope again, are you thinking that your little vegetation perk will work for heavy rains, or will that just sheet flow onto Pleasant View Drive, or will there be some kind of a flow with grade to a catch basin?
The existing drainage on the property actually comes out and crosses my property, and then it also picks it up at the corner of Pleasant View Drive and 600. So it's naturally been draining that way for the last several years. So I don't think it's ever been an issue in the past. My engineer actually shows a negative watershed once the yards are in with grass. There's actually no reason for the vegetation strip and the retention, detention, whatever you want to call it, but because there actually becomes a negative flow, the grass holds so much water. So I don't foresee any issue as far as drainage. So.
Okay, Jeremy, thanks. I think it's not Jeremy, Derek.
Derek.
So you bring up a good point. I mean, I agree that the grass will help, but we'll also have a lot of hardscape that is currently not there that will move water differently.
Yeah, his calculations just show that there actually there'll be less runoff than there is now, but I'm not an engineer, so okay. I just take his word for it.
Are you Ralph's son by chance?
Yes, sir.
Tell him hi, would you?
Will.
Okay, any other questions to staff or the applicant?
Yeah, I have a question. Where would the proposed driveway go for lot 4? How far back does it have to be from that intersection?
So we've plotted the houses on there to put the driveways as far from every intersection as possible. So they're orientated so that the driveways are the furthest point from the intersections. And that was a concern of mine personally, and so that's the way we had them drawn up. And I plan on building every one of the houses in there. So the driveways as far from, I think lot 4's got like, almost 200 feet of frontage. So it'll be about 150 feet from the intersection, the driveway.
It looks like lot 3 is going to be closer. Is
it'll be
a city concern?
It hasn't been a concern to anybody so far. The traffic slows down so much through the roundabout that there's not a lot of traffic speed, but we have orientated the houses so that they would have the driveways the furthest point from the intersections.
I'm just wondering, and maybe it's a moot point. We're only talking 3 lots, but I'm wondering if we ought to have or talk about some kind of a pull-out lane. So as people turn off Alberta into their driveways, they won't be causing people at 30 miles an hour to slam on their brakes. Maybe that's a stupid thing to think. I always worry about having residential homes on a busy street like that comes up as such a surprise after a roundabout.
Yeah, but and the road is getting widened at those points, I believe, Jill. And so there will be a shoulder and then a mow strip and a sidewalk. So it feels a little tight right now, but we will be widening both Pleasant View Drive and Alberta Drive.
Correct.
Will it be wide enough where a resident could pull their car in front?
You'll have more asphalt there, so, but it won't be much wider. Probably talking maybe three feet on the west side, and maybe it gets wider as you go towards 600 West. So there'll definitely be more of a shoulder the closer to the intersection you get.
So is that going to be an issue with the city? I mean, say that one of the families have 4 teenagers and now we've got cars parking parallel with the home along Alberta. Is that going to be a safety issue or a snow plow issue or emergency issue?
They're going to have to abide by any and all ordinances just like anybody else. If
You can't park on the road in the winter anyways. Yeah.
Well,
all year
you're right.
long, you can't leave your car there longer than 48 hours, period.
So just
go ahead, Joe.
if there's an event of a snowfall, there's not to be any parking on the road no matter where you're at. You cannot have anything parked on the road for longer than, I believe it's 72 hours.
I thought it was 48 consecutive hours.
And then what happens is the police mark it.
I would actually, and maybe I'm going out in left field on this one, but I'd feel more comfortable if the curb is painted red and there was a no parking. That's a pretty busy road, and I know that if you park a car off the side and somebody comes across that roundabout and there's a parked car without any lights on, I can see a rear end. And so on those kinds of strips, usually the city does require a red line, no parking. A good example would be 3100 North in North Ogden. There's nobody allowed to park on 3100 North from 600 to 1050.
Yeah, and there's already currently no parking signs on Alberta Drive on that stretch, which I would assume would stay in force anyways. It's always been that way. And it is marked right now with a sign because there is no curb. Soon to be curb. But
so I would recommend whoever makes the motion that they include no parking on either Pleasant View Drive or Alberta Drive, just for safety issues.
Yeah, I agree.
Just my thought. Man, I'm glad to hear you agree that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, commissioners, moving along. Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the exception of putting the no parking signs on those roads surrounding the development.
What about the conditions that are listed?
Approve with the conditions that are listed.
Okay.
Thank you, Alicia. So we have a motion on the table to recommend approval as long as conditions the city staff has recommended are met, and for safety that there are no parking signs on Alberta and Pleasant View Drive along the frontages.
I'll second that, Keith.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Derek. Appreciate you coming, and I look forward to seeing that develop. So good luck.
Yeah. Thanks for your time.
You bet. Thank you. All right, item number 5, discussion, recommendation to City Council, 9-lot subdivision named Rockwell Estates, located approximately 650 west between 3200 North and 3000 North, parcel 17-059-0133. Jill?
Okay, really quick. We do have the applicant on, Yvonne Tams. I'm not sure who all these other people are.
Charles Richardson is on as one of the potential lot owners. There is a couple of those. And then Dave Marsh is on as our dirt guy that is going to be moving some dirt around.
Okay.
Hey, Dave, how are you?
Okay. If other people, I'm just letting you guys know, or whoever's watching, I keep getting people requesting to come in. I'm not allowing any more people in due to the fact we should really only have the engineers, the applicant, and the commissioners.
You are correct. This is not a public hearing, so.
Just letting you guys know, I'm not going to admit anybody else into the Zoom meeting. All right.
Okay, take it away.
So here's the location. Not sure if you guys remember where Serenity was. Not that far from the roundabout. It is, so Serenity subdivision was right up here. Rockwell is this long parcel right here. So it is just to the west of 600, but to the east of 700. The connection would be made off of, I believe this is 3,200 and 3,000. So here's the layout. It's kind of blurry just because I tried to blow it up as much as I could. So bear with me. It is in your guys' staff reports, so you should be able to look at it better. This way, up over here is north. This is the best way I could get it so you guys could see it all in one shot. And then down here is south. So this road would connect, and right here would be a temporary turnaround, as when this parcel ends up developing, who knows when, 5 years to 100 years, who knows. It will then punch through to 600. So this right here, this portion right here is just a temporary. So there's these two lots. The zone is RE15. So, but these two lots are large enough. All of the lots fit the zone, just so you guys know, and the frontages as well. So the bottom road will be right here, and then it'll come up to a cul-de-sac. When, again, that property does develop, this road will, where'd my mouse go? There it is. I'm gonna have to do a different color so I can see where my mouse is all the time. This road will eventually punch through, but because it has that cul-de-sac, we should be fine on that aspect as well, but it goes up. So as you can tell, there's a lot, and it goes around, and then these two lots. The detention pond is right here at the bottom. And that's all for the slideshow. Just to kind of give you guys some heads up, with it being close to the canal, Yvonne had to go and get it approved by the canal company, which she's done. We've got that letter, so they're doing their due diligence on that, and they're trying to work very closely with the city to make sure that the conditions are met. And that was one reason why it got bumped to the 14th. We had to make sure the bigger things were addressed, which they've done. So there are some conditions on the staff report, but we feel that it's in a good spot that we can recommend approval along with those conditions, which they are aware. They've been sent the comments, and yeah.
Questions, commissioners?
I have a question on the road, Keith. This is Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
Since you've mentioned, Jill, before that this lot may not, that it'll punch through on the bottom, punch through to the other, but it may not be 1 year, 5 year, 20 years, 200 years. What is the, we have a 500 yard for the cul-de-sac. The fact that it's going over and it's L-ing up into the cul-de-sac, is that a total length considered as a cul-de-sac? Are we meeting that requirement still?
Yes, that was actually one of the first things we looked at. We wanted to make sure that was taken care of, because that would determine, you know, how she could be able to design that whole bottom half.
Because
So,
I was trying to add up the numbers and I wasn't quite sure if it went to the middle or to the end. So we were pretty darn close then, aren't we?
we are close.
Yes.
We're good.
Okay.
So,
thanks.
so that you know, we lost 2 lots from our original rendering, and I think we did about 4 or 5 renderings to get, you know, exactly what meets the requirements. But 1 lot was our retention basin. We tried to argue the point that we've got the main storm drain right there and we could just plug into that. But they said every new subdivision has to have a frontage retaining pond. So we complied with that. And then we lost a lot because we could only go the 500 feet up the road. So, you know, as far as recouping, this is our, we've lived in Pleasant View now for going on 23 years. It is our dream. We live 1 road to the west of this. It is our dream to be on that big lot, to have my husband have a shop and to just develop a subdivision in Pleasant View, which is our favorite place to be. So.
Sounds great. Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
Jill?
Okay. Go ahead.
Jill, you had mentioned that there were some people trying to get on the meeting that weren't being allowed. Are they allowed to make comments, or has anybody made comments here that we should be aware of?
We can allow people to watch on YouTube. That's why we have the YouTube. We have to be able to make sure what content is on Zoom is appropriate. And so that's why we just don't allow everyone to hop on Zoom. Everyone can watch and comment on YouTube. I've actually had some people email me before the meeting and asked, hey, can I get the Zoom? I said, unfortunately, you don't have a project on, but you are more than welcome to watch YouTube. It's live. You can comment all you need. We just, as a city, we have to be careful if we allow someone to come in that doesn't, and we don't necessarily know who they are, and then they try to share their screen. And yeah, we have to be careful.
There's been some security breaches throughout the country.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering if somebody had commented on this subdivision, or if there were any comments that we ought to be aware of from the citizens.
So on the staff report, it states that it was posted in the Standard Examiner, and Jill has made a notation here that there are no comments currently. And if there are no comments at the time of the application and we're not into a public hearing, then we can't entertain.
Okay, thank you.
We've been, you know, trying to be nice prior, so we're just trying to make sure we stick with what is required, so there's no inappropriateness.
Okay.
No, we're good.
Sounds good.
Okay. Question?
I have a question.
Please, Ashley, go.
So I live on this road and that's all fine, but right there, can you go back to the thing? It's not having to do with anything with the plot, but there's like a 3-way stop right onto 3200 and 700, a 3-way stop, and people like zoom past on that so fast. I can't even tell you. Like, I don't mind the people who like come to a rolling stop. That doesn't bother me. It's when I have children playing out in the yard, I'm out there too, and people are running faster than the speed limit through that. Or people are coming east on 3200 north and just swerve onto 700. I know the Stokeses live on that corner. They've almost had their kids hit on that corner just because it's so fast.
Is it on 3000 or?
I was hoping to put in a thing like, sorry?
This
right.
one?
Oh,
Or up?
go up. 732. Yeah. I would like to say, let's have a 4-way stop there.
Actually, just an FYI, that has to be taken up with the police department and the chief. That can't be something that that the city council or even the commission recommends. The police department has to be spoken to before that.
I do agree with Ashley that it is, because it used to have no stop signs there, and those of us that have lived on that road for a long time, there is these slowing stops, and then now Jensen Estates, it goes out. So we do tend, I know they have parked a cop on that road quite a bit, but we will be, as far as adding traffic, we're only adding 2 more homes, and no one should be going to those besides 2 more cars. And those 2 lots live on 700. So same cars, but we'll go slow.
Maybe make a note to bring it up with the police department, but as far as
I wasn't concerned about the 2 extra cars.
Yeah.
I do know that. I just thought it would be a good time to say, hey, we
Yeah,
still need a 4-way stop there.
But as far as making that part of a recommendation or any sort of something that's not.
Thank you, Sarah.
Council. Sorry, but I agree with you, Ashley. It's a scary spot. So.
Ashley, have you contacted the police and asked them to look at the traffic and situation? Ashley?
We have called the city many times and complained about speeders and running stop signs. I know lots of our neighbors have also. I don't think we were ever told we have to complain to I've never personally complained to the police department, but now that I know that's what I have to do, I will call them and tell them they have to put in
I do know that it's been reported on our Pleasant View City page quite a bit, and that they have requested a cop be down on that 3200, and there is a cop sitting there quite frequently as of late as well. So I know they're aware of the situation, that's kind of too fast for a residential area.
That was my only thing I wanted to bring up. It has nothing to, I love the idea of having the Richardsons and the Yvonne's, the Tams up there, and all the other random people down south. So we're good.
Random people? Okay. Any other questions to staff or the applicants that are here? If not, we'll entertain a motion. Commissioners, that's why you get paid the big bucks.
I motion to
Go ahead.
I motion to approve this plot map subdivision with what? See, that's why I never do this, because I never say it right. Okay, Jill, coach me.
Okay,
Conditions that are listed or no?
we've got the conditions here.
The conditions listed.
With the engineer's red lines on the plat are connected, addressed, and the LD retention report detailing method of selection of BMPs. Right?
I think you said
But
connected to be
that's
corrected.
what the conditions were that needed to be.
The conditions listed on the staff report.
One of them was, if we bury the canal, what about the flow upwards? And the other one was, they didn't like that funky turnabout on 3200, but we did do 5 renderings per city what it should be. And that is city ordinances of how it would be. So we just need to fix exactly what will look great. And those are the 2 latest comments, and the only ones I believe that we haven't addressed.
Can you explain a little bit, Yvonne, about the water flow? Is that what they're talking about?
Well, they're basically saying if we bury the canal there, which that's definitely something we're working on, because in my mind, I know this sounds terrible, but I feel a little picked on because, Mark Green didn't have to have frontage, didn't have to give up a lot, got a back retention. He got to dump his water on our ground, and we get to take care of it. And then we get to bury the canal, which can be upwards of $350,000. I got a bid today. So it's no joke. It can be make or break whether we can afford to do this, depending on what they require of us. So yeah, it's basically, they're saying if we bury it, it can cause an upflow problem, which I'm like, please let us not bury it. Both sides are fenced off. We would love to be able to just fence it off and leave it like it is. I understand when you go over the canal, that, you know, it needs to be, or even if I had lots going right up to it and it was right to the side, but my house will be sitting 50 feet off of 3,200 and there will be 400 feet. But Toby Molesky originally said, no, you won't have to bury it. And then he talked to somebody else and he said, yes, you will. So we still need to see what we have to bury it with, what they're going to require, all of those things. And we understand that that's part of our compliance to comply with what's going to be best. And I think they've got to see if burying it is going to cause a problem upstream. And I hope it kind of does. And I get to fence it. That would be great.
Is
that
that
wrong?
where they pull the water off to flood that field? Is it from the canal?
There's a watershed ditch on the other side that actually sits on Tinas's property, and that's the watershed ditch.
Okay, but they're not gonna, I'm just making sure they're not gonna be flooding your houses because they flood that
No.
field. Good.
No,
That
and
also
the
means
ditch
my
is
backyard won't be
full, so there'll
flooded.
be the
So
watershed
that's
ditch
good.
there, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
That's something that
And
we
we actually, Travis actually went out with the geotech guys. They needed a backhoe guy, and Travis dug down 18 feet and didn't find water on ours. On the lower one, he was down like 8 to 10 feet and barely caught water, but they will all have storm drains, and the bottom lot wants to do a slab on grade home. So all of the water shed should be appropriate with what's going on now to not cause any problems.
Well, and we really appreciate your efforts. I know you've kind of gone above and beyond on this, and however we can help as city staff. Thank you so much, Yvonne, for sticking to this.
I just ask you not to kill our dream. If we have to come up with that 60-inch box culvert, that's about 180,000 just for the pipe. So that would kill it right there. So I hope that that's not what we have to do, and we can make it an affordable thing. So as much as we're asking for approval, we have to make the numbers work as well. And I hope that we can do that. So
I definitely hope we can get there. Thank you so much for all your efforts.
Hey, just as a reminder, if we make a recommendation for approval, we need to include that the conditions of staff are met. And there are 2 outstanding conditions that have not been met, but will have to be met before you can proceed. Okay, entertain a motion.
I will motion to approve with the staff recommendations.
I'll
Perfect.
second it.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any opposed, say aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much. High fives. And hopefully works out with your retention issue
I
as
hope
well.
so. Thank you.
Thank you, you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
So Jill, this
Appreciate
comes
it.
on to city council, is that right? It does.
Yeah,
it
the items from the agenda that would go on to city council would be the rezone and then the 3 preliminary.
Okay,
So
thank you.
most of them, all except for 1.
Okay. All right, other business, commission communications. Commissioners, anything you want to bring up at this time? I have one thing I'd like to bring up. I'm sorry, did somebody say something?
No, yeah, Keith, I just, back in, I think, December, you and Jill and I had a little email exchange about our last meeting and maybe how to address that. But maybe that's what you were going to bring up as well.
Well, and that's actually, that's why we're not allowing anybody into comment because of the inappropriate of our last meeting. And where it's not a public hearing, people can view, but we don't want them to comment. They're not invited to do so. We have in the past in public meetings, out of courtesy, we've allowed people that have come to witness the proceedings, if they have a question, to go ahead and ask. But in this format, we just can't do that because of the inappropriateness of some of the comments that were made a couple months ago. And I didn't see those, Jeff. You brought it to my attention. I talked to Jill and she was aware of them. I talked to Sarah, she was aware of them. So, and that's the decision that was made, and it's actually the correct one because public comments are only allowed in public hearing meetings. Does that address your concern, Jeff?
Yeah, I think if I pulled up YouTube right now, can anybody comment on YouTube?
Yes, anybody can comment. Here's the problem. If we find a inappropriate comment, once we are not live we can report that it goes through, I want to say 24, 48 hours, and then it's removed. And
Yeah,
then they block that one login. Here's the issue. There are a lot of smart people out there, and if they want to do it that bad, they just have to create a new login and do
correct.
it. And so Keith and I were talking about it, and I agree. It is not required that we take comments for public hearings. We do. Public meetings, we don't. So they can comment. I'm not going to put them out there on our recording. But once we're done recording, so for example, tomorrow when everything's done, I will go through all the comments, make sure it's appropriate. If not, I will report those, and that way we can at least keep those clean as much as.
So, Jill, let me ask a question. I know it's a public meeting. Is there a way we can allow to view without adding a comment? And I know that in another format that I use, there's a comment box, and if you don't want comments, you just turn that off. And people have to raise their hand to get a comment put in. Otherwise, it's not recorded or heard.
We can do that on Zoom.
You could do that on YouTube too. If it's not a public hearing, you don't have to open up the comment box on YouTube. The city council and planning commission are under no obligation to let people comment unless it's during questions and comments for the mayor and council or commissioner and chair, or it's a public hearing. You can turn those comments right off.
Jill, that's what I would recommend.
You would have to do it at the setup stage. If we have a public hearing and then a public meeting right after, you can't stop those.
You can't do it manually. There's not an option to do that.
Not in the middle of a meeting, no.
Hmm.
Not that I am aware of.
Any YouTubers out there? I thought there was. I thought there was a way to turn off the comment section.
I can hide the chat in the middle of a live meeting, but I can't just turn off the comment box. Not during a live meeting.
No, you're right. I've set up a few Zoom meetings, and there is, once you set up what you want, I think that's what you get. They have all the questions, allow comments, don't allow comments, allow video, don't allow video. But once you set up your meeting, I think you're stuck with the format that you've asked for.
You know, I've been in other planning commission meetings with other cities, and they strictly use Zoom. And I'm not saying that we have to just strictly use Zoom either, but they just, that's all they use. There's no YouTube, but in that way, the administrator of that meeting can moderate everything. And maybe that's a little more work on say your end or whoever's moderating that meeting, but basically you can leave everyone in the waiting room until they can still view everything that's going on. But then they just, you know, when say Carson Jones is ready to come in for a meeting, you actually allow him, okay, his turn, he's in, and when he's done, okay, you turn him back off and he's done.
So and Andy, I have a question though. Say like you have a hot button issue, for instance, the Christopherson property, when you have 100 people show up, how does that work? It has, you know what I mean? Anybody who wants to be able to view a public hearing has a right to by law. And I don't think you would sit there, you know, the complications with Zoom of let in, you know, they have a right to address their legislators.
Yeah, and I think at the same time though, you know, when they address us as the Planning Commission or the city council, you know, I'm supposed to stand up here and I'm supposed to say, I'm Jeff Bolingbroke at you know, 541 West 3000 North. I just gave my home address. I shouldn't have done that, but anyway, you know, and I address who I am, and even, you know, on YouTube, you can't even moderate that. And now I get it. We're in weird times, and you know, but you know, at the very least, it would kind of be nice if someone were, you know, had a comment. You could allow them to come in and say, you know, like John Hanson, for example, at his project, I think it was last month or 2 months ago or something. But you know, he you know, it was John's turn, and John said, okay, I'm John Hanson, and he's been doing this enough times, he knows, and he says who he is, where he's at, and anyway, I mean, it just really bothered me, that comment. You know, it was so inappropriate, and you know, it was just a we had no idea who made the comment, and hiding behind a screen name, and anyway. So
Jill, since we're on a Zoom format, why don't we have our public hearing or our public meeting on the same Zoom format? Why do we go to YouTube?
So let me explain some things. For example.
Now you sound like my mother 50 years ago. So I'm listening very carefully.
So as staff, we go through Zoom meetings all day, every day. And we have attended, there was one that someone was able to get into a Zoom and share their screen, and there was very inappropriate images coming across. I can't control if someone's on Zoom and they share their screen. I can hurry and try and get it off.
And just to chime
Or
in,
even put a picture up in front of somebody's face. You can enable somebody to not share their computer screen, but if they say, put something up or even whatever, a sign, like right now, I could put something up and dang it, get it off, Sarah, but too late,
Or if my video camera's off, for example, I know some have pictures of their face or something. They can have inappropriate pictures, and you're trying to scramble to get them off. It's easier to be able to control, and you don't want that many people. We're limited on how many people can be in a Zoom call. So if we have a public hearing and we have X amount of people that want to be in a Zoom call just to be able to listen and comment, we're limited, and that's not okay.
and I wanted to kind of piggyback on that a little bit. So I think everybody in the COVID time period, we're all on Zoom all the time. And it's sometimes hard to understand, but on the back end of Zoom, when you're doing these big public meeting productions, there are different packages that you have to pay for, and it gets really expensive if you want all the functionality. So you may have been on one for church or for, some other business meeting or something where they have the full gamut of the options, but it gets really expensive when you go down that path. And we don't necessarily, and I will be honest, this is my first week. I don't know for sure which package we have, but my guess is, being a municipality, we probably don't have all the bells and whistles package. And so there are limitations with what we can do. Whereas you may have been on another meeting where there's all these cool things where they can put people in different rooms or sections and give different rights to different participants. And so we can definitely look into that, but there are absolutely costs associated with that, and Zoom's making a killing off of this pandemic.
So I appreciate
I
that.
tell you, my ward does not use anything paid because we get cut off.
One more thing to keep in mind, we as staff, we have to record, and the recording has to be able to record everyone in that Zoom. So if we got a higher package and we're putting people in different rooms, we have to be able to record every room that's going. And
okay, so let's just change the topic and go back to Zoom or YouTube. Is there any way we can control what's being posted through an administrator of YouTube?
On YouTube?
Yes.
When they
That's
comment?
what we're talking about. It's the YouTube comments that are being made.
so as people,
Not any more than you can when somebody stands up in a public meeting and yells at me or somebody else when they show up at a public meeting. There's been things said to us in the public, and the public unfortunately has a right to say whatever they want. They don't have a right to not be held accountable and dismissed after they say it. But if somebody shows up and wants to say what they want to say to you or anybody, like in the city council room right now where I am, they have a right to do it.
So Sarah, you're right. You're right and you're wrong.
Okay.
When there's a public meeting, people are allowed to view. If it's a public hearing, they're allowed to be heard. Otherwise, they're asked to please politely witness the ongoings of the public meeting.
You're absolutely right, except for the part where there's questions and comments for the commission, or mayor and city council. But then after that, if there's not a public hearing, absolutely, you can turn off the comments. There's got to be a way, Jill. Let's look and see if we can find one.
I'll keep looking. Like I'm looking right now while the meeting is going, I can't turn it off.
Okay.
Let's see
but
if we can Google it. I'm gonna Google and see.
I will look
Does
into
Google
it.
know everything? I don't know.
I can look at doing some staff tests. We can try to explore it a little bit more.
We can look into it. However, but if it's a public hearing, we've got to have that open. That's
I'm okay with the public hearing. It has to be, and I'm okay with public viewing. I just, if it's a
on
public viewing and it's not a public hearing, comment should not be allowed, period.
We will look into that, you bet. We'll look into see if there's something we can do.
Thank you. And commissioners, if you have any suggestions or ideas, or you heard something through YouTube that is manageable, please share that with Jill. We'd like to make sure our meetings are appropriate. Like I said, I didn't see the comment, but I heard about it and I was incensed over it.
Jill, so Google says you can turn off comments, live chat, and block certain words to prevent disruption to your live event.
Correct. But
it's in your, at any time it says you can disable live chat at any time, even after the event has started.
Okay. Heather and I will look tomorrow, but we can't do anything with the comments until after.
It gives you a step-by-step on this Google. Thank goodness for Google, right?
Can you send that to me, please?
Yeah, I'll have to screenshot it. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that. And then the only other thing that I'd like to bring up before we go to staff communications is, please don't be shy on making motions. You can't do it wrong. We'll make sure that it's done right, but it's kind of awkward when we wait 3 or 4 or 5 minutes and nobody's saying anything. So if we can just keep the meeting moving, that would be appreciative. We're all professionals. We've been here for a while. So when a motion is asked for, let's please make one. If the motion is to table it, make that motion. That's your call, but let's not hold everybody in limbo waiting for something to happen. If you would, please.
Okay, as an alternate, a lot of times I'm reluctant to say anything because I'm an alternate.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
You know,
is there any way we can identify, you can count me as a quorum member, but I can't make a motion. So I think there needs to be 4 people. I think there need to be 5 of us. No?
No, there's the 7 of us. So tonight she's not an alternate, so she's fair game to make whatever she wants to make.
Correct. By our laws, we only have 7 actual commissioners with 2 alternates.
Correct.
So you can't make a motion, but that means 6 other people can. If one of those 6 people are not present, the alternates will step up during that meeting and be able to make motions.
Yes. So tonight I was okay, but sometimes I'm not. So sometimes I'm trying to, just figure out.
It's a little bit more difficult for the alternates, I will admit. However, that still leaves 6 others that can make a motion. Sorry, guys.
No, that's okay. Julie, appreciate you very much. Everybody's input is needed. An alternate isn't any different than the chair.
Right.
So I guess the thing to look at is if there are 7 members, and you'll be able to see that on your Zoom, then you'll know that you can't make a motion. If there's only 6 and you're the 7th, please make a motion.
Mm-hmm. Well, and usually Jill's good to say beforehand, saying, oh, we only have so many. So Jeff, Julie, tonight you're on, or you're not. But I think human nature wise, sometimes even when I could, I kind of hold back because I'm an alternate, but I'll try and do better, being a little more assertive on that.
We appreciate very much everyone's comments and everyone's participation. I would rather have an over participant than an under participant. And I guess, Jill, if there's 7 commissioners and one of the alternates starts to make a motion, can you say,
I will stop.
okay? And we'll do it in a very polite way, and please don't be offended, because we want you, every one of our meetings, we want everyone together, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other communication for commissioners? Anybody have any thoughts, ideas, recommendations?
I'm glad you're here, Keith. I was so happy when I saw your face. I'm happy when I saw everyone's face and Jim.
Wait. I have something I want to say to Keith. Ready, everyone? 1, 2. Any special day today? 1, 2, 3, 4. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday
to you.
It's always bad on YouTube and Zoom.
Everybody watching, all of a sudden you see all these faces go all the place, depending on who's got the mic.
The comment at the very beginning, Keith, that I told you we'd talk about later,
Yes.
and it said happy birthday.
Oh.
Aww.
That's sweet. Thank you.
She jumped on just for that. How awesome is she? That's awesome.
Oh, you're all awesome.
It's too bad the music recording talent scouts weren't available so that they could pick the stars out of that one.
Do you want me to give you a quick update with City Council, Keith?
Please. We'll now
Okay.
go to staff communications and training. That'll be part of that.
Unless
Go
you
ahead.
want Amy to give you, Amy, I don't want to like say anything that you might say, so I don't know what you're going to say.
I don't have much else to say, frankly. I apologize. Still getting my feet wet.
Introduce yourself, Amy.
Oh, we
Introduce
already
yourself.
did it.
At the beginning.
I did.
Oh, I was too busy hooking up printers here. Never mind.
So he put me on the spot completely. Don't worry.
Okay. So I'll give you an update a little bit. We've kind of given a baptism by fire to Amy. She's been taking notes like crazy. This lady, if she doesn't know it, she knows everything anyway, but if she doesn't know it, man, she takes so many notes and she will research it and she will find it. And she is such a hard worker. And so we have an update on Skyline Drive coming sooner than later. Isn't that great?
Can you
Update on
give us-
Skyline Drive.
Can
Sorry.
you give us a hint, like a leader or
What can we say, Amy?
Within 10 years.
We're working on a public bidding process right now with the grading. And so actually next Tuesday, we're going to be looking at the different applicants and trying to make a recommendation there. And it just really is kind of starting to move along. I promise no effort of mine made that happen. I just got to go to a meeting this week that the ball's starting to roll. So we will have more information, but there is progress that is happening.
Yes, the grading package is starting to come together. The whole acquisition starting to come to a head of where we're getting to a point where it's going to happen. And so faster than not faster, if that makes sense. Also resuming our quarterly meetings and hopefully maybe even monthly meetings with EDC Utah, Chris Roybal and Holland Eubanks. I gave Amy an earful about that, about how we need to continue with that. And what else, Amy? Also with, if you can believe it, I'm talking with Allison about events already for this next year, getting, those lined up and looking forward to Founders Day, fairly soon, within 6 weeks or so, maybe 7, about having a kickoff meeting towards our Founders Day. And hopefully it will look different than it did last year. At the very least, it will look like last year. At the very most, it will look like normal. So we'll see.
I was in a meeting today with the county and they're saying maybe mid-June, more likely the end of August.
Well, mid-June, so hopefully it'll be more than what it was last year. That's the hope. And
yeah, what we have to do is people have to get their immunization.
Just got mine first dose yesterday. My arm's killing me today, but it's good.
They say when we have 75% herd immunity, we can start returning to normal. So
Right.
that needs to happen.
So just things looking up that way and talk, just some other, I don't know how much to say about some other upcoming projects, but stay tuned. There, we have some really cool things that are exciting. So it'll be awesome.
You can't do that. Sorry, you can't drop that carrot in front of us. You got to tell us
No,
what's
it's
going on.
good because just talk. Yeah, I'll just be careful about how I say that one. It'll just be good. And by the next meeting, I'll have a little bit more to tell you. There you go.
Thank you. Amy, do you have anything for us that you'd like to share? This is the last item on the agenda, and that's to receive communication and training from you to us.
I don't have anything at this time, but I am really excited to be on board, and it's very lovely to meet all of you and to be part of this meeting. So thank you.
Well, you're the administrator to the right city. Pleasant View really is it's a great place to live and to raise families. And
she lives in Plain City. We're gonna get her to come over here.
That'll happen automatically. She'll just start migrating and find out what a wonderful place it is, and she and her family will move up. That's all there is to it.
I heard there's less mosquitoes here, so.
Yeah.
And
Now, there's something. Steve's now the chairman of the Mosquito Abatement Board. So
well, that's just what I was going to say. We don't have mosquitoes up here like you have in Plain City.
No, but Steve was just elected to be the chair. He's been on the board for 8 years almost.
Steve Gibson.
That's part of his assignment. He's been on the board for quite a long time, and they just elected him as the chair.
Okay, good.
So that's good news.
That is good news. Okay, anything else?
I have a question.
Alicia, please.
Thank you. So what's going on with our commission council training or getting together meetings? What's happening with that?
Didn't you hear what I just said?
No, maybe I didn't.
Starting up again now that we have Amy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, you'll be excited. Ashley will be, not Ashley. Ashley will be excited too, and Alicia, and everyone will be excited.
So we don't have dates now. We don't have any dates yet.
We don't have any dates yet. That's coming up fairly soon. I believe fairly soon. There was a kind of some go-to items that Chris gave us last time that hopefully we can follow up with him. Yeah, remember, Jill? I don't know that Chris said, "This is what I need from you."
Oh, I sent him another email.
So
he was on there of all
yeah.
the updated.
Jill's getting the ball rolling on that. So
we need to follow up with Chris and say, okay, she's giving you what you need, and now you follow up with us now. Follow through.
I'll send him another email. Me and Amy will. We'll get that taken care of.
You guys are gonna love Amy. She's awesome. She really, really is. She comes highly recommended from I don't know that she said this about herself, but Ogden City Council and the whole government of Ogden City was very sad to see her go. Nothing, but you know how I look around. Alicia knows. She asked me to look around about her, and I couldn't find anything, by the way, nothing negative.
I was gonna say, how was your Facebook?
I Googled everything I could about Amy. I did that about everybody. Inquired. I found mutual friends that we had on Facebook, messaged them, asked them about her. Nothing in the way of, but from she's really cool to way above. Seriously, highly recommended.
So Amy, how do you feel about being stalked by the city council?
It's probably nothing new.
It's nothing new, and Sarah has been fantastic. We've already clicked, and yeah, it's all good.
All right.
That's part of the
Welcome
interview
aboard.
process, right?
Yeah.
Stalking.
By the way, Keith, I apologize for asking about comments. I had no idea about this whole comment issue.
And I didn't either. Jeff brought it up to me. I don't ever look at the comments.
That went on before, so that was news to me.
It's
So
unfortunate.
I'm sorry that is something that we've had to deal with.
But
I think as our society, we need to start dealing with, we need to really start addressing what social media and social platforms are doing to the breakdown of our civility. It
Right.
really is. It's a problem. And
It's a problem everywhere.
you just keep thinking that people would have decency and common sense, but it's not. What happened to the Capitol last week was a perfect example of, we just throw out everything that we hold near and dear and attack the seat of democracy.
Mhm.
My 2 cents.
Yeah.
But they open the gates
I
and let-
think in large part.
I know.
too,
What's
people
that?
are able to be anonymous in some ways and keeps people from being accountable for behavior.
Yes,
Yeah, no, I
it
agree.
gives. And unfortunately, I think that in some ways it's almost, you would say things on social media that you'd never dream of saying in person, but unfortunately now you do say in person because you've said it so long on social media.
And it's not just mano a mano, it's
No.
1,000, 10,000, a million. It's whoever wants to see it can.
Yeah.
So,
But another happy thought, Anne just texted me and said, "Happy birthday, Keith." She wanted me to make sure to tell you again.
thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Anything else, folks?
I have a small challenge for the commissioners.
Okay.
This is kind of be a little bit fun. On initiative 1, the Diane Budge rezone, when we get into the planning documents that support the way that we are to analyze this, 20.08.020, look at paragraph A, and I'd be really interested if anybody can tell me what it means.
Okay, I'm going back to it. The Diane, what page are you? Let's see.
I just got my notes. It's right after they have all the preliminary information on the acreage and from zone A2 to RE20. And then when you get into the body of the planning document that regulates the way that we
Okay,
look at
it's 2008, what number?
0.020, paragraph A. It's the first paragraph after that.
Okay. Since the
And
purpose of zoning regulations is to promote the general welfare, safety, health, convenience, and economic prosperity of the residents of the city, rezoning a property should further this purpose. As rezoning a property itself does nothing to promote these goals, the achievement of proposed development upon which rezoning is based is of prime importance to the city to justify the actual rezoning request. I know what it means, but Jim, I think it can be worded a little bit. The reason why we rezone is for the best interest of the city and the citizenry.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way that it's worded. I found it so convoluted that I had no idea what the meaning was. It was good for entertainment, though.
Okay, before we leave, can I say something, please?
Please, go ahead.
So, next meeting, the 28th, we only have one thing, so it should be really quick.
Okay.
I talked to Nate Karras this morning.
Okay.
He has put in his word to resign.
Oh.
Here is why. Him and his wife are building a new home in North Ogden. So he's planning on moving soon. So that means, Julie, you will no longer be an alternate. I will get the fine details from Nate on an exact date. So I wanted to let you guys know from us rather than through a grapevine. So
There you go, Julie. How's that for proper timing?
Well, now I won't have to sit and count how many people are here.
Well, we'll certainly miss Nate, and I can't imagine why anybody, this is public comment, so take it as it is, why anybody would leave Pleasant View to go to North Ogden.
Hey,
I'm sorry.
No, Pleasant View is a wonderful place. I will fully admit that.
And so is North Ogden. I will readily admit as well. You're great.
North
as is
Ogden
Far
becomes
West,
Pleasant
as
View.
is Plain City.
Even with the mosquitoes.
Politically correct, right? Okay. Anything else, folks? Let's go ahead and adjourn.
Okay.
Good.
Hi, guys. It was
Motion
good to
made.
see your faces.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you all. Take care.
Bye.
So,
Close the plug.
Amy, what's your last name again?
It's Maybe, M-A-B-E-Y.
Isn't that the coolest name? Call me
That
maybe.
that is a cool name.
I can
Okay. I should be able to remember. I maybe will be able to remember that. You know, we went to that conference and the guy taught us how to associate names with faces.
Yeah.
Remember that speaker?
So what on her face?
So
Is there an M on her face somewhere?
Oh.
Just kidding.
Okay.
Okay, bye, guys.